welcome to Oor Vyce's virtual Burns Nicht. I'm Iona Fyfe, your host for the evening, and we're delighted to hear you join us for an evening of tunes, songs, poems and speeches celebrating our national bard, Robbie Burns. Oor Vyce is the campaign for the lawful recognition of the Scots lead through the introduction of a Scots Language Act in the Scottish Parliament. You can support us by joining as a member or joining our mailing list out at www.oorvyce.scot/join. You just heard the wonderful piping of John Dew, BBC Radio Scotland Young Traditional Musician of the Year semi-finalist, playing the tunes The Roses o' Upper Inverroy, John Mackenzie's Strathspey, Cutty's Waddin and the High Bridge Walk. Without further ado, we're going to invite you to get your haggis ready. I dinna hae haggis, but it's nae going to stop me from saying, some hae meat and canna eat, and some would eat that wint it, but we hae meat and we can eat, so let the Lord be thankit. I'm now going to pass it over to Jack Capener, the laddie who founded Oor Vyce, and he's going to do the address to the haggis.
Fair fa, your honest, sonsy face, great chieftain o' the puddin' race, I bidna ma ye tak your place, painch, stripe or therum, wheel are ye worthy o' grace, as lang's ma erum. The groaning trencher there ye fill, your heart is like a distant hill, your pin would help thee men a mill in time o' need, and through your pores the dews distil like amber bead. His knife sees rustic labour dicht, and cut ye up where it is slacht, drenching your gushing entrails brecht like ony ditch, and oh, what a glorious sicht, warm, reeking, rich. Now horn for horn they stretch and strive, they'll tack the hindmaist on they drive, till other wheel-swad kites belive are bent like drums, then Auld Goodman mayst like to rive, but thank it hums. It's there that his French ragout, or olio would stow a sue, or fleek or sea would mack or spew a perfect skinner, looks down with sneer and scorn for view on sick a dinner. Well, per deal, see him our his trash as feckless as a weather drash, his spindle shank a good whip flash, his neve and net. Through bloody fled or field to dash, who unfit but merk the rustic Haggis fed the trembling yard resumes his stead, clapping his welly knee a blade, he'll mak it whistle, and arms and legs and heats will sned like taps o' thistle. Say ye poors that mak mankind your care, and dish us out oor bill of fare. Auld Scotland wants na skinking where that jops in luggies, nah! Gin ya wish her a grateful prayer, gie her a haggis.
Now I'll invite yous a for your ain hames to raise a glass to the haggis. This is the peart for Abdi enjoys a fine 3-course meal in a dram or twa. I hae my Scottish gin at the ready. I'm going to do the first sang of the evening, and this is cried Sang Composed in August or Westlin Winds, and I learnt this from Rod Peterson when I was studying Scots sang at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. So here's Westlin Winds. Now Westlin winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant heather. The moorcock springs on whirring wings among the blooming heather. Now within green wide are the plain, delights the weary farmer. The moon shines bright as I rove at night, to muse upon my charmer. The patrick loose the fruitful fells, the plover loose the mountain, the woodcock haunts the lonely dells, the soaring hern the fountains. Through lofty groves, the cushat troves, the path o' man to shun it, the hazel bird the thrush, the spreading thorn, the linnet. Thus every kind their pleasure find, the savage and the tender. Some social join and leagues combine, some solitary wonder. Of Untitled the cruel sway, tyrannic man's dominion, the sportsman's joy, the murdering cry, the fluttering gory pinion. But Peggy dear, the evening's clear, thick flies the skimming swallow. The sky is blue, the fields in view, all feeding green and yellow. Come, let us tree our gladsome way, and view the charm o' nature, the rustling corn, the fruited thorn, and ilka happy creature. We'll gently walk and swiftly talk, while the silent moon shines clearly. I'll clasp thy waist and fondly press, swear how I love thee dearly. Not vernal showers to budding flowers, not autumn to the farmer, so dear can be as thou to me, my fair, my lovely charmer. We're going to carry on with another song, and this ends for Cameron Nixon, for West Hill in Aberdeenshire. Cameron studied Scots sang at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland under Rod Peterson and Fiona Hunter and Margaret Bennett and this song is the beautiful A Fond Kiss that Burns wrote and sent to Agnes Clorinda on the 27th of December 1791 after their last meeting. She was set to go away to Jamaica to make up with her estranged husband. A Fond Kiss.
A fond kiss and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in head-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Me nae cheerful twinkle lights me, dark despair around benights me. I'll ne'er blame my partial fancy, Nathan could resist my Nancy, but to see her was to love her, love but her, and love forever. Had we never peace, enjoyment, love, and pleasure. A fond kiss and then we severed. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee.
We'll be hearing Mayor for Cameron later on in the evening, as well as Billy Kay and new Scots sensation and poet Len Pennie, also kent as Miss Punny Pennie. But before then, we're going to hear for one of Scotland's most ken speckle folklorists. She's a Scots and Gaelic sangster, a braidcaster and an ethnomusicologist. I'm fair ticket that we hae Dr. Margaret Bennett to do the immortal memory.
Good evening and thank you for inviting me. My earliest memories of Burns date back to my childhood. The 25th of January 1959, on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Robert Burns. My father, a Lowland Scot and a real Burns enthusiast, tuned in the wireless to the BBC Scottish Home Service, and he gave my three sisters and me a brief introduction to the bard's greatness and two good reasons for keeping quiet for the next hour. We were going to hear all about Scotland's greatest poet, and the other reason, you'll get sent to bed if you make a single peep. One thing that the television era has deprived us of is that imagination the wireless demands. I could hear the howling gale. There were sound effects too. I could imagine the roof blew off the house on the night he was born. I could picture it all, and for an hour I was riveted. And though the programme ended with the sadness of the bard's death, it marked the beginning of an enduring enjoyment of his poetry and his songs, as well as my admiration, fascination and curiosity about the bard himself. Those were my early influences, but what about his? Certainly his family home. It was a fairly strict Calvinist background, his father especially. But his mother, Agnes, had a very good singing voice and a large repertoire of songs. And there was also the old housemaid who Burns acknowledges he owed the greatest debt of gratitude to her. She had, I suppose, the greatest collection in the country of tales and songs concerning devils, ghosts, fairies, brownies, witches, warlocks, spunkies, kelpies, elf candles, deedlichts, wraiths, apparitions, cantrips, giants, enchanted towers, and other trumpery. And this cultivated the licency of poetry. He was tuned into poetry, and with a poet's eye he could appreciate the simple things that surrounded him. One of his own early memories was of an evening in the kitchen. Robert's mother had hung the washing from a pulley in the rafters of the living, and in the evening during family worship a rat appeared and ran down the rope to the floor, and Robert made his first rhyme. When his father closed the good book, he said, a rat, for want of stairs, ran down a rope to say his prayers." Robert and his brother Gilbert were well educated, thanks to their father, William Burns, who got together with 4 neighbours to hire a tutor for the children. He was 18-year-old John Murdoch, and as part of his salary, the families took it in turn to board him. There was a rigorous training in English grammar, spelling, poetry, religion. He gave them an excellent grounding in literature, and that clearly influenced Robert. He was to write later on, "The first 2 books I ever read in private and which gave me the most pleasure, more pleasure than any two books I ever read again, were The Life of Hannibal and The History of Sir William Wallace. Hannibal gave me such ideas. I used to strut in raptures up and down after the recruiting drum and bagpipe and wish myself tall enough to be a soldier. But the story of Wallace poured a Scottish prejudice in my veins which will boil along there till the floodgates of life shut in eternal rest. And reflecting on what inspired him to compose songs, and he wrote, I never had the heart or thought or inclination of turning poet till I once got heartily in love, and then rhyme and song were in a manner the spontaneous language of my heart. And the object of his affection was, when he was 14, was Nellie Kirkpatrick. I walken I and weary, sleep I can get nane, for thinking my dearie, I walken when I sleep I dream, when I dream I'm merry, or sleep I can get nane, for thinking my dearie, I walken And once heartily in love, Robert was never out of it, and that some fire was kept alive by the flame, one after the other. And Gilbert said that Robert was constantly the victim of some fair enslaver. Living in Ayrshire, under the watchful eye of the kirk, he was far more the victim of malicious gossips, Holy Willie and the likes. That man and his ilk would go to any lengths to snoop on courting couples. He made life impossible for Robert and his real sweetheart, Jean Armour, as her father listened to the likes of those church elders. Later Robert was to write, An honest man has nothing to fear, conscious of having acted an honest part, even granting that he may have been the sport at times of passions and instincts. He goes to a greater unknowing being who gave him those passions and instincts and well knows their force. And in his prayer, prospect of death, he said, Thou knowest that thou hast formed me with passions wild and strong. Oh, to this day there are plenty of self-righteous Holy Willies who'll derive satisfaction from listening to Burns's alleged sins of the flesh. It's become almost fashionable to enumerate them all and then pronounce judgment on how he should have behaved and how he treated those poor innocent women. Are they also out of touch with life that they haven't considered that women are capable of feeling that fatal attraction? And the ploughman poet was not short of admirers. As the late Donald Dewar, the first Minister of Scotland, said at a Burns supper one evening, he said, Robert Burns' biggest mistake was that he wrote everything down. His journals, his letters. But from the address to the Unca Good, then gently scan your brother man, still gentler sister woman. Though they man gang a kennin wrang, to step aside is human. Who made the earth, 'tis he alone decidedly can try us. He knows each chord, its various tone, each spring its various bias. Then at the balance let's be mute. We never can adjust it. What's done we partly may compute, but know not what's resisted. When Robert had a chance to get away from it all, in 1786, he was celebrating the publication of his Kilmarnock edition of poems with a visit to Edinburgh. And he was suddenly celebrated and feted among the literati, with patrons who recognised his gift with poetry. He didn't have a single patron in Ayrshire. And among his letters, there's one from Mrs. Coburn. The attention he received during his stay in town from all ranks and descriptions of persons was such that would have turned any head but his own. He retained the same simplicity of manners and appearance which had struck me so forcibly when I first saw him in the country. Robert could hold his own in any Edinburgh drawing room. Walter Scott met him. He was just a lad of 16 at the time, and years later he cherished the memory. He wrote, "I never saw another eye in a human being, though I have seen the most distinguished men of my time, but his conversation expressed the perfect self-confidence, but without the least intrusive forwardness." Robert was invited to join the Crochallan Fencibles, one of Edinburgh's more genteel men's drinking clubs, and the landlord, Tony Douglas, named the club after his favourite Gaelic song, Crochallan, meaning Colin's cattle. And at the close of every evening, Robert soon learned the song so that he would also join with the assembled company as they sang. Gon doke Crochallan o Banyer an Rún, gon choman gon vorach, gon lorken gon lui, Crochallan muchria, Crochallan mogun, gon doke Crochallan o Banyer an Rún. And before long, Robbie would travel to the Highlands, Gaeldom. And while he was in Edinburgh, he set off on several tours to see the rest of Scotland. He started in the Borders, home of the great ballads, and he made his way north to the Highlands. He felt at home there with the Jacobite sympathisers, even although the most disastrous event in Highland history happened a decade before he was born. Feelings still rang high, and Robbie shared the indignation and anguish at the fate of his beloved Scotland. Where are all the boasted advantages which my country reaps from the Union that can counterbalance the annihilation of our independence and even our very name? When we reflect on his time, it seems clear that he had none of this Gaelic Scots either or and you can't have both mentality that seems to have taken hold for too many generations. We can have both. They're Scotland's native languages. And several of his songs adopt Gaelic airs, including his most famous love song, Haggis, which you're going to hear. The melody is attributed to the Clars of Auld, the blind harper. There's a Gaelic song that goes a bit like this, and it's not identical, but you'll hear the similarity. He haros na horoela, he haros na horoela, he haros na horoela, kutum oloirim biocha helmi. It was in the following year, his second visit to Edinburgh, that he met the woman for whom he made the song, Agnes MacLehose. The romance ended, of course, on that particular visit, and he returned to his native Ayrshire. He'd been driven away, really, partly by the hard-hearted and relentless opposition of James Armour, but he eventually married his beloved Jean Armour, whose name will eternally be linked to his. Oh, the earth's the wind does blow, I dearly love the west, for there a bonny lassie lives, the lass I know the best. And I really do think that he did love her the best. They had an understanding that we should leave in their own place. Too many people judge how she felt or how he felt, but she herself is a remarkable woman. Working as a farmer and an exciseman was an exhausting and hard on his health, but he still devoted time to his poetry. And he took on the task of collecting old Scotch songs for James Johnson, an Edinburgh printer. He wrote, "There's a certain something in the old Scotch songs, a wild happiness of thought and expression, which peculiarly marks them, not only from English songs, but also from modern efforts of songwriters in our native manner and language." And in 1788 he wrote to William Dunbar, "I've hardly made a single rhyme since I saw you. When I meet with an old Scots air that has any idea, oh, when I love this," he said, "I have a peculiar pleasure in following out that idea for a verse or two." His reputation as a songsmith as well as a poet was now well established, and he received a letter from another compiler of songs, George Thomson, a different kind of man. He was very sophisticated, and he was working with the best classical composers of the day to compile his select Scottish airs. And Thomson wrote to him and he said he asked for 20 or 25 songs suitable for the particular melodies which I'm prepared to send you. I'll pay any reasonable price you please to demand. He wrote back on the 16th of September 1792, "Dear Mr. Thomson, I have just this moment got your letter. As the request you make to me will positively add to my enjoyment of complying with it, I shall enter into your undertaking with all the small portion of abilities I have, strained to the utmost exertions by the impulse of enthusiasm. I've not the command of that language that I have in my native tongue. In fact, I think my ideas more barren in English than in Scots. As to remuneration, in the honest enthusiasm which I embark in your undertaking, to talk of money, wages, fees, hire, etc., would be downright sodomy of the soul. One more song I have done, Auld Lang Syne, an old song of olden time which has never been in print or even in manuscript until I took it down from an old man singing." Robert threw himself into the business of collecting, restoring, rewriting, creating, and in his letters to Johnson and Thomson we hear the passion and enthusiasm not only for Scottish songs but for his mother tongue. "That I for poor old Scotland's sake some useful plan or book could make, or sing a song at least." Burns had an ability to express the apparently inexpressible, to touch the intangible. Tennyson, the English poet, said of Burns, "Read the exquisite songs of Burns. In shape each of them has the perfection of the berry, and in light the radiance of a dewdrop." His songs, his poems, his letters have been translated into countless languages. There are more statues of Robert Burns than any person who ever lived apart from Christ and his mother, the Virgin Mary. He celebrated the world over. So please raise your glasses with me to the immortal memory of Robert Burns.
Wasn't that just grand? A muckle thanks to Margaret Bennett for doing such a braw job of the immortal memory. Now we're going to hear another sang for Cameron Nixon.
This is a cheeky Robert Burns song called The Weary Pund o' Tow. And in this song, the husband is just doing nothing right for his beloved wife. This is The Weary Pund o' Tow. I gave my wife a stain o' lint as good as e'er the grow, and all that she has made o' that is e'er per pund o' tow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. I think my wife will end her life before she spin her tow. There sat a bottle in a bowl, a yonty ingle and I she took another suit to droop the sturdy tow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. I think my wife will end her life before she spin her tow. Cries I for shame, ye dirty dame, gae spin your tap o' tow. She took a rock and we a knock, but racket on my pow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. I think my wife will end her life before she spin her tow. At last her feet I sank to seek, skipping o'er you now, and ere I wed another jet, a wallop in the tow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. I think my wife will end her life before she spin her tow. Come all ye jolly bachelors, if fain be merry be, I pray ye'd be advised, tak this note frae me. A single life is free frae strife, frae sorrow, grief and woe. Besides a wife will end your life, the weary pund o' tow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. Besides a wife will end your life, the weary pund o' tow. The weary pund, the weary pund, the weary pund o' tow. Besides a wife will end your life with the weary pund o' tow.
Now we've come to fit as usually a wee bit of a contentious part o' the Burns Nicht. This is the toast to the lassies, and we hae Oor Vyce founder Jack Capener doing it. This is a toast to the lassies for the 21st century.
Hello, here is your toast to the lasses. See, when I was asked to do this, I actually hadna a Scooby what it involved. So like all good Scooby-less gadgets, I ta'en myself right away to Google and had a look, and found myself watching a video of some old English felly, maist like the chief of Clan Winders Brooks Mayor Combe or something, tell me that a good toast to the lasses is where, and I quote, gallantry and farce collide. Gallantry and farce. Now, I dinna ken muckle about toasts to the lasses, but I ken muckle less about gallantry and farce. Because I honestly didn't think that they words had come out my mouth afore now. If somebody's gallant and farcical, I'd most like just cry them a gallus numpty, because that's what's natural to me, my Scots. And like, oftentimes choosing to use my Scots can feel like a big political statement and actually cause a wee stooshy. And that brings me on to the subject of this toast, lasses, because sometimes when I'm kind of etling to push myself to speak Scots in situations where my instinct is to speak English, I wonder if this is what it's like to be a lass, because I'm just trying to be myself, just doing what comes natural to me, and yet somehow it's a big political statement, it's a darg. Is that no what a woman gangs through ilka day? And I was etling at thinking of good Scots words to do with women, and to my shame, I honestly think the yin I use the maist is, well, the B word. And no that B word. Just because I'm doing a toast to the lasses, Disney make me a misogynist and all. I'm talking about bism. Obdy can be a bism. Even my granny's a wee bism when she's first slagging off Margaret down the road. But I mean, is it a sexist word? I honestly didn't ken. Maybe it's a compliment, because bism can mean brush for by, and a brush is a thing that's practical to its core, sturdy, expert at sweeping aside shite. Sounds about right for a woman and all. And Burns kent this. He might have been a womanizer, but he kent their strength. Take, for example, his poem A Braw Wooer, where a lass gets revenge on a cheating lad by humiliating him at the market tryst. And yet, he gaed and choried women's sangs anyways, cause he didn't screeve Braw Wooer, he plagiarised it for women. So he sat and he listened to this sang about how absolutely brutal a woman wranged can be, and thought to himself, aye, these are the kind of folk that I'm wanting to chore for. But maybe thon's what gallantry and farce is all about, being a gallus numpty. There'll aye be plenty of gallus numpties of both sexes, but maybe you'll only ever get bisms of the female sex, for it's aye the lasses that bear the grey in terms of thrownness, jagginess, and practicality and strength. That's something we ken guy weel in our own wee Scots language community and in Oor Vyce. It's women that's our backbone, and all us gallus numpties stand squarely on their shooters. So here's to the lasses, here's to the bisms. And I did just scull a dram of water, because, come on, it's 2 p.m. and it took like 10 times to get this thing right.
Well, I don't mind being cried a besom at a. Now, the niece spicker doesn't really need any introduction. Our 2020, she's ta'en Twitter by storm with her Scots word of the day in her poems. She even got commissioned by Lidl to scrive a poem. I was fair ticket when she agreed to do the Lassies' reply. Afore we hear her Lassies' reply, we're going to hear a wee video she made just for Jack. Or should I say, Alex.
Alright, Jack. I'm about to call you Alex for 5 minutes for no reason. And we're just not going to acknowledge it. Okay? How's that? Nobody's going to acknowledge it. Because I kent your name was Jack before I started filming. I kent your name was Jack during the filming. And I ken your name's Jack now. But my brain went, crime Alex, that'll be a laugh. Now, Iona's already started editing this. Tirelessly editing this. Like she's editing everything else. So it's too late for me to go back and do another take. You're Alex now, pal. Congratulations. I apologise again. Sorry, Jack. Alex. Jack. Alex? Jack. Alright, lads and lasses. I've been to quite a few burn suppers, so unlike Alex, I have a very good idea what the usual structure of the toast and reply to the lassies is. Usually you've got some lads standing up saying, women take too long in the shower. Women take too long putting themselves together. Women take too long parallel parking. And then some woman stands up and says, och, men didn't take long enough in the shower. Men didn't take long enough putting themselves together. Men didn't take long enough parallel parking, and that's why the side of the motor scraped. It's usually just jabbing at each other. And as you say, gallantry and farce intersect. Usually it's more farce than it is gallantry, but that's a debate for another day. Your yin was pure gallantry. It was pure thoughtful and pure braw and pure blithe, and it was nice. It was a refreshing change of pace to no sit and have to defend myself. So I didn't really have much to say in terms of you, because your speech was lovely. You compared the lassies with the lead, and I agree with that. We're both controversial, unintentionally. We both have to constantly defend ourselves. And we both have to fecht every day just to exist. And that's sad, but it's true. So I can't dispute that. Also can't dispute your fact that the lassies are the backbone and the fecht for the lead and the fecht for life, because we're clearly superior. Nah, I'm not going to get in a slagging match. I promised I wouldn't. Anyway, I think I've said enough ad-libbing, so here's a wee poem I scrived for the occasion. A wee while ago, actually, when I was on the receiving end of some misogyny. Because one of the good things about Burns is he doesn't just look at lassies for what they look like. He looks at them for who they are. He sees beyond the aesthetic. And for me, seeing that in literature, seeing that in books and poems and sangs, it doesn't happen that often. It's always, oh, there's a braw lassie, look at her. And no, that's a braw lassie. Look at who she is. Look at what she's doing. Look at what she's saying beyond the aesthetic. So I'll start with a quote for Burns and I'll finish with a quote for me, if that's not too narcissistic. But I feel like the female voice should end it, because it is, after all, a reply to the lads. Burns says, Auld nature swears, the lovely dears, her noblest work she classes, oh. Her prentice hand she tried on man, and then she made the lasses, oh. It's rare to be put on a pedestal like that in literature, and it's one of many reasons why we celebrate Burns Day, because it's an egalitarianism that isn't often appreciated enough. It's no just, look at her, it's, look at her, if I make much sense. Anyway, here is a wee poem I wrote, Cried Reflections. Have ye any comprehension of what lassies have to face, fighting tooth and nail to gain respect in every space? It's no about the stuff I say, or what I try to write, it's the way I look while doing it. Have you ever heard such shite? I lang for days when I can talk with makeup on my puss, and no hae men inquire why I've gone to sic a fuss, or tell me how I turn them on, or what they'd like to do, or redirect the dialogue to what they want to say. Don't get me wrong, I love the lads, but feel like I should mention the fact I'm here to educate, no just for meal attention. And I'm told every day to keep my head down and ignore, but for every mon yoursel hen, there's a vapid, ugly whore. So I call out the bastards who make my work a game, hold a mirror to misogyny and watch it cringe in shame, and to the men who fear the women that they cannot control. No, while you might broke our heart, you'll never break our soul. I'm thinking o' quine screeving in their mother's mother tongue, and lassies writing poetry, the audience and the young. To the wee girls hear me say this in my mammy's native speech. Know that you can advocate, inspire, craft and teach. Know your words have power, beyond the way you look. Take the bullshit that life throws your way and write a bloody book. Thank you very much, Alex, for your toast to lassies. And I've done one better than you, or one worse, depending on how you feel, because I haven't even got a drink, so I'll just give you a round of applause for a phenomenal speech, and I hope the rest of the night's phenomenal as well. See you later, lads.
Now, fae the young'uns to the legends. I'm guy chuffed to hae the braw Billy Kay here to treat yous a to a recitation o' Tam o' Shanter.
Before I start the recitation, a wee story that could be totally fabricated or could have some truth in it. My family, the Kays, were mainly for East Ayrshire, but according to one of my grannies, there was Kays who are related to Davidsons down in South Ayrshire, round about Kirkoswald. Now, Suitor Johnny, who appears in this poem, was a Davidson for round about Kirkoswald. So, I might be descended for one of the greatest drunkards in Scottish literary history, Suitor Johnny. Here we go. When Chapman Billies leave the street and Druthie, neighbours mate, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to tak the gate, while we sit, boozing at the nappy and getting food and unca happy, we think, nah, and the lang Scot smiles, the mossies, water, slaps and styles that lie atween us and our hame, where sits our sulkin, sullen dame. Gathering our brews like gathering storms, nursing our wrath to keep it warm. This truth von honest Tam o' Shanter is he for e'er united canter, all dear, whom ne'er a tune surpasses, for honest men and bonny lassies. O Tam, hadst thou but been sae wise as ta'en that ain wife Kate's advice, she told thee weel, thou wast a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that frae November to October, yea, market day, thou wasna sober, that ilka melder with the miller, thou sat as lang as thou had siller, that every nag was cawed a shoe on, the smith and thee get roaring foon, that at the Lord's house, even on Sunday, thou drank wi' Kurt and Jean till Monday. Oh, she prophesied that later soon there'd be funded deep, drowned and doon, or catched wi' warlocks in the mirk by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it gars me greet to think how many counsels sweet, how many lengthened sage advices the husband for the wife despises. But to Oor deal, ye merk it nicht, Tam had goat planted, unca recht, fast by an engle, blazing finely, where Riemann swats it drank divinely. And his elba, Suitor Johnny, his ancient, trusty, drouthy crony, Tam lewed him like a bear brother, they'd been fou for weeks together. The nicht drave on wi' sang and clatter, and aye the yull was growing better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious with secret favours, sweet and precious. The suitor told his queerest stories, the landlord's laugh was ready chorus, the storm without mech rear and rustle. Tam didn't mind the storm a whistle. Care, mad to see a man sae happy, in drooned himsel among the nappy. As bees flee hame wi' lades of treasure, the minutes wing their way wi' pleasure. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, or all the ills o' life victorious. But pleasures are like poppy spread. You seize the flower, its bloom is shed, or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white and melts forever, or like the borealis race that flit ere you can point their place, or like the rainbow's lovely form, vanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide. The Oor approaches, Tam mun ride. That Oor o' Nicht's black erch, the key stain. That dreary Oor he mounts his beast in, and sick o' Nicht he tacks the road in, as ne'er peer sinner was abroad in. The wind blew as 'twas blown its last, the rattling showers rose in the blast, the speedy gleams the darkness swallowed, loud, deep and lang the thunder bellowed o'. That night a child might understand. The deil had business on his hand. We'll mount it on his grey mare Meg, a better never lifted leg. Tam skelp on through dub and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, whilst holding fast his gid blue bonnet, whilst crooning o'er some old Scotch sonnet, whilst glowering roon with prudent care, lest bogles catch him unawares. Kirkalloway was drawing nigh, where ghasts and hoolets nichtly cry. By this time he was crossed the ford, where in the snow the chapman smoored, and past the birks and meikle stain, where drunken Charlie brak his neck bane, and through the winds and by the cairn, where hunters fund the murdered bairn, and o'er the thorn abin the well, where Mungo's mother hung hersel. Before him, doon poor Zoe's floods. The Dublin storm roars through the woods. The lichtning flash frae pole to pole, near and mair near the thunder's roll, when, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirkalloway seemed in a blaze. Through ilka board the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring, bold John Barleycorn, what dangers thou can make us scorn? Wi' Pennie, we fear nae evil, wi' Ushkave, we'll face the devil. The swat she reamed in Tammy's bodle, fair play, he cared a deal's a bodle, but Maggie stood like yin astonished, till, by the heel and horn admonished, she ventured for it in the licht, and wow, Tam saw an unca sicht. Warlocks and witches in a dance, nae cotillon brand new fae France, but hornpipes, jackstrut spies, and reels, but life and metal in their heels. At one bunker in the east, there sat Auld Nick in shape o' beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim, and large. To gie them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and gart them skirl, till roof and rafters all did dirl. Coffins stood round like open presses that showed the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip slicht, each in his cold hand held a licht, by which heroic Tam was able to note upon the hairy table a murderer's banes and jibbitairns, 'twas span long wee unchristened bairns, a thief new cut it for a rape, wi' his last gasp his gab did gape, 5 tomahawks wi' blood red rusted, 5 scimitars wi' murder crusted, a garter that a babe had strangled, a knife a father's throat had mangled, whom his ain son o' life bereft, the grey hairs yet stuck to the heft, wi' mair a horrible and awfu' that even to name would be unlawful. As Tammy glowered, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper lewd and lewder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew, they reeled, they set, they crossed, they creaked, till Ulka Carl and Swat and Rika and Cooster duddies to the wark and link it at it in her sark. Now Tam, oh Tam, had they been queens, oh, plump and strapping in their teens, their sarks instead of creasy flannin been snow white 1700 linen, oh, their breeks o' mine, my only pair, that yens were plush a good blue hair, I'd a gi'n them off my hearties for a blink o' they bonny birdies. But withered bell dams, Auld and droll, rig-widdy hags would spee in a foal, louping and flinging in a crummock, so when I didna turn my stomach. But Tam kent what was what foo brawly. There was ye a winsome wench, Anne Wally that nicht enlisted in the court, and long after Kent and Carry shore. For many a beast the deed she showed, and perish many a bonny boat, and shoot baith meikle corn and beer, and held the countryside in fear. Her cutty sark, oh, Paisley harn, that while a lassie she had worn. In longitude, though sairly scanty, it was her best, and she was vaunty. Ah, little kent thy reverent granny, that sark she coft for her wee nanny, wi' twop on Scots, 'twas o' her riches, would ever grace a dance o' witches. But here, ma muse her wing mun cour, sick flicks her for a yonder poor, to sing how Nanny lop and flang, a supple jawed she was and strang, and who Tam stood like yin bewitched, and thought his very een enriched, even Satan glowered and fidged foo fain, and hotched and blew wi' micht and main, till first ye caper, syne another, Tam tint his reason altogether and yells out, "Well done, Cutty Sark!" And in an instant all was dark, and scarcely had he Maggie rallied, when out the hellish legion sallied. As bees bezoot wi' angry fyke, when plundering herds assail their bike, as open pussies mortal foes, when pop she starts afore their nose, as eager runs the market crowd, when catch the thief resounds aloud, so Maggie runs, the witches follow, with many an eldritch screech and hollow. Ah, Tam, thou'll get thy fairin'. In hell they'll roast thee like a herring. In vain thy Kate awaits thy coming, Kate shall be a woeful woman. Now, day thy speedy utmost meg, and win the key stain o' the brig. There at them thou the tail may toss, for a running stream they daurna cross. But ere the key stain she could make, the fainter tail she had to shake, for Nanny, far afore the rest, hard upon noble Maggie pressed. She flew at Tam with furious ettle, but little wist she Maggie's mettle, yea spring, brought off her master hail, but left behind her ain grey tail. The carlin clocht her by the rump, and left puir Maggie scarce a stump. Now, wha this tale o' truth shall read, ilk man and mither's son tak heed. Whene'er to drink you're inclined o'er, Cutty Sarks run in your mind, think. ye may buy the joys our dear. Remember, Tam o' Shanter's mare.
Well, we've come to the end of the Nicht, and muckle thanks to other artists and spikkers for lending us a hand and being part of the Oor Vyce virtual Burns Nicht. Thanks to Abdi at home for tuned in. I hope you've all had a braw time. Oor Vyce is always needing more supporters, so if you'd like to join for free as a member or join our mailing list, then please head over to www.oorvyce.scot/join. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, so gives a wee like our there and a. To play you out, here's a wee recording of me singing A Lang Syne, accompanied by Biggins. Then you'll hear a last tune set by our piper John Jew, playing the tunes A Fond Kiss, Duncan Gray, Healing Harry Back Again, and the Deals a Warwick Seisman. A muckle thanks for tuning in, good nicht, and slant shava. Did I say that right? I'm not sure. See yous!
Should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should all acquaintance be forgot, Syne all lang syne, for Auld lang syne, my jo, for all lang syne. We'll take a cup o' kindness yet, for Auld lang syne, and surely you'll be your pint stoop, and surely I'll be mine, and we'll take a cup o' kindness yet, for Auld lang syne, for Auld lang syne, my jo, for Auld lang syne. We'll take a cup o' kindness yet, for Auld lang syne. We'd swagger up out the breeze and put the gowans fine, and we've wandered mony's a weary fit, Syne Auld lang syne, for Auld lang syne, my jo, for Auld lang syne. We'll take a cup o' kindness yet, for Auld lang syne. We twa pedalled in the burn, every morning sun